Hello and welcome back. Now that you're here, we can begin discussing Jujutsu Kaisen chapter 262. It's a very short chapter, but there is still a bit of information to consider the implications of. As per usual, I'll be quickly summarizing the chapter and then moving on to my theories and opinions of the content, and finally wrapping it up with my personal rating of the chapter as a whole. Now let's get into what may be the shortest chapter yet. The chapter starts with Yuta and Sukuna's domain clash, resulting in them both being sucked into a basketball-sized domain barrier, completely excluding Todo and Yuji from its limits and, by extension, excluding them from the fight. Using the shrunken barrier strategy that Gojo learned from the prison realm, it'll take Sukuna roughly 3 minutes to break through Yuta's domain. Yuta was able to pull off this advanced technique because he switched bodies with Gojo during the month leading up to the Shinjuku battle, the same way he had switched with Yuji already. Yuta has essentially established a 3-minute time limit to win the fight against Sukuna, as he needs to damage Sukuna enough to stop him from maintaining Malevolent Shrine just as Gojo did in chapter 228. This time limit roughly coincides with the 5-minute time limit that his manifestation of Rika, and by extension his copy technique, already has active. This means that in all likelihood, Yuta won't be able to continue fighting after this domain battle, one way or another. Sukuna responds to Yuta by shrinking his domain's effective range to overlap Yuta's barrier, just as he did against Gojo, and that trade-off has effectively removed the 99-second time limit that he was suffering before Todo's appearance. Although Sukuna is confident that he won't even need 3 minutes to win this time, which indicates that he senses a significant difference between Gojo and Yuta. The chapter points out that Sukuna is significantly fatigued and weakened, but he still believes that he can overpower Yuta and continue to maintain his own domain. Yuta then uses Gojo's blue technique to pull Sukuna in for an attack, and Sukuna takes advantage of the momentum and uses domain amplification to counterattack, taking Yuta off guard with a short flurry of punches. This highlights two important factors at play within the domain's barrier. First, Yuta doesn't seem to have inherited Gojo's memories, as he is unaware that Sukuna can use domain amplification and domain expansion at the same time. And second, Sukuna must be using Megumi's soul as a shield against Unlimited Void again, because chapter 230 confirms that Sukuna's domain does not protect him against sure hit effects, and he would have already been stunned by Unlimited Void otherwise. The exact method he uses to shift the brain damage isn't made clear, but it must be the case or he wouldn't be able to battle Yuta as he does in this chapter. The final page shows us a fully manifested Rika sobbing while holding Yuta's corpse, which seems to be stitched back together. And we are sent off into a 21-day break with the editor's comment, Rika fully manifested. However... ... I believe that this chapter is setting up Rika to do something on the level of Jujutsu Kaisen Zero's showing against Sukuna, which will finally pay off the king versus queen thread that was hinted at when Yuta first joined the fight in Shinjuku, but only after Yuta's domain barrier shatters, proving that Gojo was in fact the strongest of his time because he's Gojo and not because he was blessed from birth. There is also a small chance that Sukuna deferring the damage from Unlimited Void to Megumi is proof that he still has Maharaga, or at least Maharaga's wheel. We see in chapter 230 that Sukuna says that he used the 10 shadows to have Megumi shoulder the adaptation. So it's possible that he just means that he placed the wheel on Megumi, and Megumi taking the damage was an entirely different mechanic of Jujutsu. But there is an official image of true form Sukuna with the wheel above his head that's been floating around for a few weeks. The wheel's return to the narrative doesn't necessarily mean that Maharaga survived the purple, however. Megumi's 10 shadows leave their powers to the other shadows when they are permanently killed, so Sukuna could still have access to the wheel without it being directly from Maharaga, and instead one of the other shadows could wear the wheel and have the adaptation abilities now. As far as my personal review of the chapter, I like what very little content we got this week, but it does very little to progress the plot and still raises more questions than it answers. For example, Kenjaku gained Geto's knowledge and memories, while still, Yuta doesn't seem to have any of Gojo's memories. And also, how Sukuna is able to fight while tanking Unlimited Void. The chapter does continue to prevent Yuji and Todo from being useful at all, so I'm going to have to give the chapter a 6 out of 10 at best, but keep in mind that the chapter was severely held back seemingly due to Gege's illness. So under normal circumstances, we'd definitely be able to expect more answers in the story progression. But just judging the chapter as it stands alone, it's essentially a 30-second exchange that we'll see in the anime 2 or 3 years from now. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if there are any interesting points about the chapter that I missed, make sure to let everyone know in the comments. I also appreciate all forms of suggestions or criticisms, but either way, I hope you stay safe and take it easy.